Everyone has access to the arts during lockdown, whether it be music, film, recorded theatre, books, and this support needs to continue afterwards. I think everyone needs to understand the importance of the arts and its contribution to the economy. In my opinion, I think football can wait. I think it's the arts that will help rebuild society and the economy. I had just finished a ballet class when I was given the announcement that Laban would be closing due to the pandemic. My teachers and company manager came into the studio to tell us. It was a very strange moment because we were in the middle of our UK and European tour, so there was much adrenaline between the group, having just finished a tour date and going on to the next. But now this was taken away from us. Immediately I had loads of questions about how long the lockdown might last and how we might continue. I am Lewis Sharp and I'm doing an MFA in dance performance at Trinity Laban Conservatoire of Music and Dance. It was a very strange time to accept. However, we were just about to go on to Easter break, so the timing felt right. I was expecting to come back to normal reality at the end of the break.
Good evening. It's a move resisted by the Prime Minister for days and never before contemplated in peacetime. But tonight, confronted with growing evidence of the dramatic spread of coronavirus, Boris Johnson announced schools across the United Kingdom will close their gates to all but the children of crucial public servants and the vulnerable. GCSEs and A-levels, with just weeks to go, have been scrapped. And the Prime Minister pointedly refused to rule out a further lockdown within days in the capital, a virus hotspot where dozens of deaths have now been reported.
I went home to Dagenham immediately after Laban closed and just before the country went into lockdown. I wanted to isolate with my family, and in my head I was only going to stay for 3 weeks until the start of the new term.
Hello son, welcome home!
This now meant, however, I was at home for 10 weeks. This was a time to focus on academics and have more space to dancing in the living room or in the garden. The most obvious way the pandemic has affected my work is by not being able to work in the institution I'm a student at, and by not taking class in a studio. Dance is a live event that the majority of the time happens in person with other people. And for the past few months, a laptop screen has become the main focus of working, at home in my intimate space, without the connection with other people. This has been most disorientating. As I am living at home with family, I have to negotiate the use of space. So when I might need the living room to myself, or maybe asking them not to be so loud. Working on a laptop with a video call program I've never used before, there became so many technological and connection problems. And all of this has had a hard-hitting effect on how I engage with my work and my mental approaches to that.
A symbolic statement. Theatres shut down, taped off. At Manchester's Royal Exchange, where up to 65% of its permanent staff are going to be laid off. And at London's National Theatre, where 400 of its casual workers have been told by email they'll only be paid until August. Of course, they'd much rather be dressing an actual set, but right now, who knows when that will be.
It's not like we're idly sort of like dramatic about it. It really does matter that if we do not have investment from the government before Christmas, a lot of our theatres will go to the wall.
A thriving industry brought to its knees.
I have been fortunate enough that I have still needed to work on assignments and coursework for my master's degree. Although me and my peers have missed out on many performance opportunities. We have spent a huge amount of time and effort taking daily classes and workshops and focusing on the academics of the course. This has given structure and routine to my days, which has been very beneficial, although it has been difficult to motivate myself working in my personal space. However, I am fortunate to have physically and mentally engaged in work. On a more personal level, this time has meant that I've had more time to do things such as exercise more, read, catch up with friends, and just have the time to disconnect from such a busy life. I do also have some part-time jobs that have been postponed. However, I have been lucky enough to be placed on the furlough scheme by all of them. Not being able to work puts anyone at financial stress, and even as a student, financial situations are even more at risk. This time has made me think about what I want to achieve over the coming year. This is not just about securing myself during these months and planning beyond. I am very worried about the dance, art and theatre world during this situation. It faces so many disadvantages anyway, and right now it's even more at an all-time low. I became very conscious about graduating soon and going into the professional world. And only just a few weeks ago, I decided to extend my master's degree and transfer from the MA strand to the MFA strand. I do enjoy research, and the second year of the MFA is essentially an independent research year, finishing with a qualification that will put me in greater stead of employment opportunities such as working in higher education, which is something that I have strong ambition for. So I thought to myself, why not? I have also been accepted onto Matthew Bourne's New Adventures Overture Professional Development Programme, which is aimed at artists working in the community. This will help develop my skills and identity as a teacher and will help me progress into beginning my career. I sometimes find it a little bit hard to consider, but I would love to experience working in a performing arts venue with all the guidelines in place as soon as I can and as soon as it's safe to do so. But I am worried that it will take away from the experience and magic of dancing that I cherish so much. One of the biggest things that I've learned during this time is how to use my creativity in other ways outside of the dance studio. The thing that I've learned is how important dance is to me and that it can't be taken away.
I'm hopeful that this is just a time of change as opposed to a complete collapse and destruction of everything. I'm Crystal Campbell and I'm a 2019 graduate of Trinity Laban studying on the BA Honours Contemporary Dance. When I graduated from Laban, I moved to Newport in South Wales to live and base and work from there and continuing my professional development. But my family live in Nottingham in England, so when lockdown began, I was actually miles away from them and spent the entire lockdown period alone. So it was a good length of time before I was able to see them. Once I did, I went down, connected back in, just enjoyed spending time with them, catching up with them, playing with my two little nieces who are my absolute joy. Having done that, I'm now strengthened and ready to go back to South Wales and pick up from where I left off.
Thank you very much, strong girl.
I need to get...
Shall I choose a book then? Bed.
It's a settee, it's like a bed settee, so that can go that way. Camera is common for these, so they'll be spaced that way.
In the process of turning my flat into a home. I did move in to it quite soon after graduating. Having been a student for the previous 3 years, it was taking time to sort of build it and move furniture in and really make it into a home. But the pandemic did interrupt that. I'd just come back from performing in London. I had just scratched a new idea for a project and performed that at a scratch event and had feedback received. I was now putting all of that together for an Arts Council research and development funding opportunity. I was going to the gym, doing Pilates, yoga, all of that, trying to maintain my shape and my fitness and my technique, doing various workshops and classes. And I just don't think that I don't think anybody expected how hard this was going to hit, how literally all of that would just come crumbling down overnight, literally, like everything.
That is why people will only be allowed to leave their home for the following very limited purposes. Shopping for basic necessities as infrequently as possible. One form of exercise a day, for example.
So many self-employed people and freelancers, their work just dried up overnight and left them with nothing. And I was in the same place. And I don't think that, even generations before us hadn't experienced something quite like this. This was a new thing for all of us. We were all going through this trauma, this loss, this turmoil, and it hit us hard. So the text message came not long after the announcement saying that the photo shoot was cancelled. That was quite a defining moment for me that said, okay, this is really happening, and you are losing work, and you are about to lose more work. I think there was still like this, almost like this not quite accepting it, hopefulness that maybe something could still go ahead, but the reality was that I was losing all of my income from employment and losing it fast. To keep myself from melting down mentally, I continued to focus on my Arts Council Wales application that I was working on to propose a research and development project. But within a few days even that avenue closed, and I began to feel lost. The living environment that I was now stuck in just made everything feel worse. I had now had no income. I'm sitting and sleeping on pesticide covered floorboards, and I've now got nothing to work on or propose for the future. I began to feel very low and very much like I was just living in poverty. Being a recent graduate, I was one of the people that fell through the cracks with the government support schemes, but thankfully the Arts Council Wales opened up an emergency fund which I was able to access. I was astounded by the response of creatives worldwide. It seems like overnight everybody just went online. I now found myself able to do company classes with companies that I could only have dreamed of visiting before. I started attending online Pilates classes with Yasmin Vardaman Company's pop-up space online, and was doing that a good 3 to 4 times a week. The roadmap out of lockdown in Wales has been slightly behind the rest of the UK. We're now able to travel out of Wales, which is great because it means I can now also start travelling to London to work with my collaborator over there on a project we began last year. As part of that, I myself have become a creative associate of German Street Theatre in London alongside my collaborator. So we've been given a week at German Street Theatre with mentor support from theatre director Rich Rusk. But I'm seeing that the creative industry is adapting, is changing. There are a lot of doors opening. It's as though people have realised that the up-and-coming artists really need support in this time, and organisations have been amazing at responding to that.
Re ma ga re sa re ma pa ni sa re.
I'm Aishani Ghosh, I'm 19 and I'm in my second year of doing my BA Honours degree at London Contemporary School of Dance. I started my training in Bharatanatyam at the age of 5 under the guidance of Srimati Jitalekha Bola. I also started ballet at the same age. I'm at an incredibly significant time in my life. Everything that I dreamt of and worked hard for in Birmingham was slowly becoming a reality. But then this never thought of, never heard of, and of course, never before experienced situation hit. COVID-19. A pandemic. Everything shutting down. Masks, sanitizers, isolation, lockdown. In the blink of the eye, the world just changed.
Face coverings have become part and parcel of daily life during the pandemic. Soon it will be mandatory to wear them on all public transport. All this comes after weeks of mixed messages from the government on whether face coverings actually work. The Mayor of London had been calling for this change for 2 months.
When all this started, I was in my second term of university, getting acclimatised to the London life and the university life. I was seeing and feeling significant improvements, both mentally and physically, since being in the studio 5 days a week for 9 hours. On top of this, I was due to go on a small rural tour in March. Then all of this came to a standstill. What? Really? What now? In March, our university was shutting down. Everyone was dispersing, people were leaving for home. It was time to bid farewell to my peers. The uncertainty for how long was unsettling. The once heaving and buzzing campus was now reduced to a desolate, lifeless concrete block. all that was left was this vast sense of emptiness and uncertainty. I packed up my bags and my father picked me up. On the motorway drive back home, there was pin-drop silence. I did not look back. By now, the London skyline was gradually fading in the haze of the setting sun. There was also this immense joy coming back home. Layers of mixed emotions which were very difficult to express, but were very strongly felt. In terms of my education, there was this huge setback. Where dance is such a physical learning, where one needs to be in the studio every day, which I was getting at university. But now all my classes moved online. It was not the same. There was such a different energy to being in the studio every day. It was hard for my creativity to thrive in this isolation.
Just know that I'm hoping you feel it. Come back with me when you agree. Call me when it's free.
For me, I get inspired by the dancers around me. During lockdown, it forced me to find inspiration from within myself.
You don't have to tell nobody that you're coming home with me.
Both my parents are frontline workers with the NHS, so I've seen this pandemic in a completely different point of view. My mother got the virus while working, so when my dad was in the hospital, I would take care of her, and then when he would come back from work, I would do my Bharatanatyam classes. Hearing about everything that was going on behind the scenes from my parents really made me appreciate what life was like before. Things like meeting my friends, life without a mask, meeting family. But more importantly, it made me respect my parents' occupation 100 times more than I already did. This internal search made my emotions much more in tune with my mind and soul. I realised that the only way to keep moving forward is with a positive mindset. In some ways, this lockdown has made me much stronger mentally than I was before. I felt an undercurrent of unity among my community, a strong urge to get through these difficult times together. From uni, we had access to support schemes which focused on the mental repercussions that COVID might have. These were immensely helpful from time to time. But I must admit that had these have not been there, I wouldn't have actively searched for any. Luckily, I was in good grips of myself, mentally, in spite of everything going on around us. I was evolving into a stronger person and slowly but surely navigating a new way of life. So liberating being back in the studio again. Despite all the regulations that were put in place, to be able to dance in such a large space again just felt like freedom. We were initially restricted into only entering twice a week, but now we're in 4 times a week, which is even better. It was a strange new feeling being able to dance with everyone again and feeding off everyone's energy. I feel so much more alive and energized again. My options about what I want to do when I graduate are very lucid right now, I have no idea what mental space or physical space I'll be in, no idea how COVID would have affected our lives in the long run, or even the industry at this point. I understand that we're still far from eliminating the problem that we call COVID. I believe that we've learnt to coexist or adjust to the issue right now. If another lockdown or another surge were to happen, it would be incredibly frustrating due to the time-sensitive nature of my degree. On a broader perspective, the arts industry has suffered a huge setback. From us students to full-time performing artists at the peak of their career. Organisations and venues have been struggling. With limitations in reopening to full capacity, to funding shortfalls, and to competitiveness within the industry, it's difficult to determine how this industry will cope. I personally believe venues could have opened up already with proper restrictions in place. Some already have with limited capacity, which is good news, but still major sections of it remains undetermined. In the past couple of months, we've seen a huge effort on behalf of the government and the Arts Council for regeneration. Culture creates jobs, supports livelihoods, and brings joy to everyone. The UK leads the world in the creative industries, and we can feel pride in that. Now, in these challenging times, it's our turn to show our support for culture. I'm full of hope for the creative future, and I believe we will beat this pandemic and get to where we all desire to be.